Hello and welcome to Wild Logic, my wild logicians. So let's jump right in. I'm going to read a passage from the Tao Te Ching, a translation by Stephen Mitchell, a pocket edition, and then we're going to be doing a tarot reading that plays off of it. So here we have 80. The 8, the infinity, has been coming up a bit today. So let's go. If a country is governed wisely, its inhabitants will be content. They enjoy the labor of their hands and don't waste time inventing labor-saving machines. Since they clearly love their homes, they aren't interested in travel. There may be a few wagons and boats, but these don't go anywhere. There may be an arsenal of weapons, but nobody ever uses them. People enjoy their food, take pleasure in being with their families, spend weekends working in their gardens, delight in the doings of the neighborhood. And even though the next country is so close that people can hear its roosters crowing and its dogs barking, they are content to die of old age without ever having gone to see it. This is a really interesting passage. It's giving me, the opposite of heartbreak, right? Also a little bit of the opposite of like the Four of Cups energy, right? The FOMO that we are all worried about. But there is a lot of heartache because, in this world, we're not close necessarily with our families. We are perhaps distanced even from the people around us. It's a world that is quite different than is in that passage 80. And despite that, we'll actually just work on getting things aligned here. That there is, because things are quite different than that, there's a lot of heartache. There's a lot of trauma. And so we find ourselves in constant nostalgia. We are pulling back and pulling forward because something is amiss. And it's because we have such big, beautiful hearts as human beings that we want this wholeness, this connectivity, these memories of childhood when we were with our families. Perhaps you're like me and the memories of childhood aren't there in that way in your own experience. But they are there perhaps in this idea of what it could have been like. Because there is this kind of conflict and defensiveness that is built into our world. There are weapons and they are being used. But there is this new approach that's available in your mind and emotions where you can let go of what you have known. You can let go of the way things are being seen. So this fool reminds me of the idea of innocence in the I Ching, where innocence is a really positive way of seeing things, knowing that you don't know, but not in a way of ignorance, but in a way of like this true wisdom. Once you go through all of the knowledge, you start to understand that things are always unfolding, that there is always a new perspective, and we don't have to be in the negative version of the Queen of Wands energy anymore. We don't have to put on a show. We don't have to be hot to trot to be this love. We don't have to go and see everything and do everything and be everything. We can just be ourselves. We can hang out with the young ones around us and just enjoy their experience of life. It's actually, when we're young, maybe travel is interesting, but more than anything, it's just the vibe of the ones we love. Being connected is what we crave the most. And I think that never changes as adults. And so there is this innocence that is coming back in, this awakening of like, wow, you know what? That way of wanting and dreaming as a child makes a lot of sense. All of this independence and, you know, planning and secrets, they're not actually bringing in the love that we hope. You know, it's good to be independent on one level, but there is a level of independence that has been cultivated that actually is quite harmful to the well-being of people. So innocence, connectivity, being one with your environment, that is where it is at, my cat, my kittens. And everything can come to you. There's this one really cool YouTuber that calls people rad cats. And the Self Academy, I believe, with Danielle, she's a lot of fun. I really appreciate her style. And with that, your soul shines. So as you start to come into this state of the Fool internally, you see your own soul shining through. This 3 of Wands energy, the heartbreak, is actually your heart breaking open and regrounding yourself in this presence where you are starting to create a life where you don't have to run away. You can be grounded where you are, and this is giving you this beautiful. Here we got the 8. Again, we got, and it's funny because it came out reversed, but I'm reading it as upright. 80, right? It's the 8s are the same upside and right side up, and so is the 0. And sometimes the 1 is, depending on the font being used. But there are a few numbers that are like that. And I was actually thinking, I didn't mention it earlier, but a 3 is kind of like half an 8. It's a fragmentation, right? In infinity cut in half. And what you have to do is hold up a mirror and it reflects again. Maybe at some point I'll bring some mirrors in. Optics and light have been a big part of my creative practice. And so with that in mind, I'm going to bring in this little optical gem here, talking about all the different ways to see and be. So you don't have to actually go or move or travel. It's all about perspectives. If your lens shifts, you can actually see where you're at from a variety of perspectives. And it turns the nature around you into a holographic dimensional experience where you, like, you know, maybe things seem very simple on the surface, but there's so much more there, particularly when the nature is really grounded in itself and in its community. And what that means is it is a collaboration of souls. So here we have the lover's energy, and this lover's energy, this grounded connectivity that can be seen in the lover's card that comes with this pause tarot that I love with the kittens. It's grounded in that, and they're actually touching. And so that's different than a lot of lovers decks where they are separate. And that, I think, is kind of speaking to this whole history of this separation and conflict, that the Tao is just like, why? Like, what are we doing? If things are all fragmented, it is not a sign of a happy, healthy community. It's a sign of issues at play. Okay, so I think I've like jumped a few because there's a lot of information coming in here. But yes, so when the nature is actually connected to its own roots, to its own ways, and not controlled by humans, when it's a collaboration of souls, the souls of the plants, the souls of the earth and the minerals, the souls of the creatures that are working with the plants, like eating the plants, distributing the plants, moving the plants. There's this whole collaboration of all of this energy and life. That's where the interdimensionality of nature really shines. So I invite you to start to find those natural places, or in fact let nature come into your landscape. Don't control all the plants, let their magic come through. And here I have the diviner coming out, and this is divine timing and evaluation. Okay, so just letting things come, letting the plants come in and grow naturally. And of course, you can evaluate. There are some plants that you do not want to let grow. And here we have the assassin and conviction. So this is, I'm someone who has studied quite a bit about the way native plant communities work and how to grow and cultivate them. And sometimes people want to bring them into their garden in a way that really fits the aesthetics of traditional gardens, which I think that is a way to work with it. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But the way I prefer to work with it is to actually let the plants start to propagate themselves, see what comes in, and like start there, and then be additive with the plants that want to work in that way. Some things require to be added. Other things will add themselves naturally because of the way that seeds are distributed, that this living seed bank works. But at the same time, there are seed banks of plants that are actually quite ruthless, and in turn, we have to mirror that energy to at this point while balance is still being restored, right? So there are plants I will remove. And that took me a long time to come into balance of like, well, how do I know when is it right for me to intervene and when is it right for me to let nature take course? And I think as humans, we have this really strong ability to see and have this vision and way of working with nature. We have like been collaborating with nature since we have been around. And so there's no rule against that. However, how we do that has a incredible impact on how things are balanced in the wider world, right? So our ways of moving really impacts everything, and this includes ourselves, right? So again, I'm being pulled back to this passage of this need to move around and just redistribute, and that's actually been a part of how, to an extent, these ecosystems have become imbalanced. But to go back to the garden and enjoy the labor of our hands and our own gardens, but to see our gardens as not just for ourselves, but for everything they're connected to, for our well-being and the well-being of the creatures and the planet, because the gardens have become these corridors for wildlife as well. And it's really important that we understand that the earth is for all of life, and it's quite possible and beautiful to invite it in a more holistic way. And that is that infinity symbol, right? This 8 that is being highlighted here in this reading. There is a strength in seeing beyond ourselves. In the strength card, you will see that someone has, is able to, open a lion's mouth or do a lion's hair in the cat's deck, right? Because there is so much inner peace that they can approach a lion with this sensibility of mastery and strength. So that inner alignment allows this loving energy to come out, right? And so by understanding the cycles of life, we are able to be in balance. We no longer fear death. We can embrace life and we can collaborate with it, and we don't have to hoard the resources. We can share the resources because the planet is abundant. There is plenty for all. There is no need for anyone to go hungry. There is no need for one country to take the resources of another. And here we have the snake coming in to support this energy. This is about unawakened magic. This is the magic of cycles, right? Here's the snake in a circle, the 0, which is like the untwisted infinity, right? Infinity without flare. So it's all there, whether it's a circle or a double loop. The message is the same. It is circling around this flower of life, representing rejuvenation. And that is what is possible for all of us, because the universe is always rejuvenating itself. We don't... Okay. Oh, man. Love this. I do really love this cosmic egg card, I gotta say. And here, being grounded in the earth will lift us to the cosmos. And here we have a whale, which, whales are just master collaborators with the earth. They live in balance. They live in this way that we could only hope to live, as like massive, intelligent beings that are so wise that we, I think, really have not even started to tap into their wisdom. Instead we hunted them for a bunch of time. I mean, it's, that's an awkward thing to do. But here we go. So here we have the beaver to round this all out. The beaver actually represents like water and earth, and they work with the environment and actually they redirect things in a way that is beneficial to the whole. They, like, when the beavers leave an ecosystem, the whole ecosystem falls apart. They found this out, I believe, in Yosemite. When the beavers left, the wolves left. It completely, and it's like, people notice the wolves because wolves are big, right? Wolves are noticeable. But there were so many other ecological issues that came from the lack of beavers. All the beavers being hunted, right? Because they have got really soft skin, and they were over hunted and over harvested. In fact, that was a big part of how America became settled for this beaver fur. It was the first trade, unfair trade, I would say, particularly for the beavers and the ecosystems, right? But the traders were obviously not focused on that. What they were focused on was the need for these goods, these beautiful goods that, are representative of how beautiful life is. At the same time, when you overharvest, the beaver population collapsed, other ecosystems collapsed. And I kind of see the whale giving us a little bit of the side eye, being like, yeah, that is what happens when you're not paying attention. So we could really learn so much for the beaver. There's a book about beavers that I've read some chapters of when I was studying plant ecology, and I definitely want to go back to it. Man, there is so much incredible information out there, friends. It's a gift to be alive today. It's a lot to sort through, no doubt, but it is a gift to be alive with so much really incredible information and people out there. It does take time to sift through it. Okay, so here we're going to start with the snake, guardian of unawakened magic and creative potential. The snake is a symbol of our highest potential. It is said that Shakti, our creative life force, lies dormant at the base of our spine, in the form of a coiled snake. Regardless of whether this image rings true for you, it is well worth considering the amount of unawakened or untapped potential within. What would life look like if you woke it up? Wake up! Ding, 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 ding. Or I don't know, that's not how an alarm sounds. Wake up. How could you stir it from slumber? And trust me, friends, today I really had a hard time getting up. And sometimes we need that rest, but actually rest is a part of the waking up process, because you can't wake up if you've never really rested. This is more about awareness. You probably get that. An experienced yogi or meditation teacher can lead the way. Make haste. The snake card appears when there is no more time to waste. Make haste. No waste. Haste weeks waste, though. So, I don't know. Anyways, think about it. When in balance, prosperous, creative, charismatic. When out of balance, starts and stops many things. Yikes. Creative types. We have that, don't we? To bring into balance, Kundalini yoga meditation. And there is a little Kundalini yoga routine that I like to post when this card comes up, because I have enjoyed it. It's a nice starting point for folks So I will post that per usual. Okay, so let's now go to the cosmic egg. And I mean, this is fun because, right, the circle and the spiral, like these readings are based on this wheel of how energy can move and revolve. And it is a circle, but it's actually a spiral because each time you go through the wheel, you learn it's not the same, right? You might feel that you're repeating things, but it's because the themes of life are enduring. There are enduring aspects of this planet. So as you ascend, there will be familiar territory. Nothing ever leaves, right? But you will see it differently. You will see it through a different lens if you are ready for it. Okay. The cosmic egg, completion, harmony, the infinite within the finite. The cosmic egg is the final card in the journey of the animal spirit deck, and it represents the unfolding of cosmic consciousness. The state emerges after we have tread the path for quite some time, and through self-effort and grace, we experience self-realization. A sense of contentment and oneness spontaneously arise within us, and the veils of our self-limiting beliefs are lifted. When the essence of the cosmic egg has not been activated, we may feel as if we never get there, or that we travel alone, disconnected from others. Even if our encounter with this card is brief, appearing as a momentary glimmer or flash of interconnectedness, its potent energy stays with us. The cosmic egg is a remedy for the fragmentation of modern life. It's through the power of this card that we are reminded of the cosmic contract written at the beginning. We hold on to life, and life holds on to us. The journey is complete, but does not end. Infinity. All right. Love it, right? So bringing that energy forward is so powerful, my friends. And it is going to wake folks up into their whale energy. You'll be waking up into your whale energy. Desire to delve deeper, profound peace, ancient wisdom. The whale represents profound emotional health and stability, and this is coming from this beginner's mindset of the fool that we saw earlier in this reading. Whale personalities are not afraid of emotional expression or traversing difficult terrain, as they have overcome many challenges in their life. These experiences have enriched them, given them stability, strength, and a depth that is rare. Whale energy is usually linked to the feminine forces of compassion and communication. We can depend on whale personalities when all else seems lost, and trust them to be a beacon in our darkest hour. When in balance, calm, steady, deeply compassionate. When out of balance, heavy, slips into old story. To bring into balance, regular self-care, which includes rest. Perhaps maybe the most important form of self-care. Because without rest, we are pretty discombobulated. Okay, and here we go. The beaver. Earth and water combined. The cosmic architect. Oops, totally went past. Where'd you go, beaver? There we are. Hard worker, loyal, tireless, family first. Tireless. The beaver personality is a welcome sight. These good-natured and dependable creatures have infinite love, infinity, and enthusiasm for family, and express it by way of the earth element, providing a home, financial stability, right? The stability that we heard in the passage 80. Although a beaver doesn't usually initiate a project, once started, they'll work steadily for weeks, months, or years to see it through. The beaver card appears when the task at hand requires your long-term, steady effort. It can also signify that it's time for some karma yoga, selfless service. When in balance, happy, meaningful work. When out of balance, feels useless and worn out. Oh, little beaver, to bring into balance physical labor, selfless service. And that I find very interesting because that type of labor was mentioned in this passage here. The labor of their hands, right? They enjoy the labor of their hands. They feel useful. They're not trying to invent machines to take away the pleasures of everyday labor. They're not trying to rush through. They're not trying to go anywhere else. There is this commitment to family and location, and family being whatever it is. I am certainly not someone that would ever tell anyone what their family should look like, what love should look like. And I think when others do that, it really diminishes the true beauty of emotional connection that's possible, of love. And in this fragmented world, right, part of becoming whole is finding family. And we can't necessarily, we can work with the people that are a part of our original family units, but if they're not interested, it's their sovereign right to not participate, right? So we're allowed to let go and build a family of people that are emotionally mature, that want to heal and awaken their magic. Because not everyone's choosing that, and that's their right. That is their absolute right. And I'm also just noticing how the beaver is aligned with this priest, this faith, right? That the faith that the hard work is going to really turn into something beautiful and resonant and powerful, and it will. And I think beavers, like that kind of energy, might underestimate itself, because many times creatures like the beaver have been they couldn't even identify how important beavers were to the environment until much later. And these are people that were really trying to understand, but what actually creates the flow in networks of life sometimes can be seemingly humble. This idea of, we're all meditating, which I think meditation is great, but the meditation of doing the dishes, which I'm not perfect at, but there is something about these daily tasks, like making the bed. And it's not so much just to have a made bed, but the process of doing things that we know how to do, that are embedded in us, that we don't have to think. We can just be in the flow of experience, of appreciation for the bed, for the things that we have, taking care of them, slowing down. And that contributes to our self-worth. Oh, and it's also very interesting that trade is here under beaver, because that was their value. The value of their fur was what the merchants, it's what brought them down. Wow. This is so interesting. So having our value misidentified, that's something I think really for all of us to look into ourselves. Are we superficially looking at our value? Or do we understand how the beaver, what it meant to all of life compared to the skin that was being sold in Europe? Boom. Crazy. And the way that they initiated this collaboration of life on this planet, it's bonkers. So what is worth, I think, is a big underlying question here. And this is an invitation to start to really reevaluate that as you awaken your magic, the beaver, the magic that it gave by just doing its natural instincts. It made everything whole. And in what ways does your just magic of being human, doing what a human does, bring things whole, brings this wisdom and depth? It's just beautiful. So your soul shines, my friends. Until next time. And by the way, if you enjoyed this, like the message, support the algorithm, support this channel, subscribe, share it with a friend, say hi in the comments. I'm so curious who's out there. Where are you from? What's on your mind? where are you at in the world? Speaking of these landscapes. Okay, until next time, be well.